Well, we're joined now from Washington by Patrick Clausen, an expert on American policy towards Iran. Here in the studio is Akbar Etemad, the man who set up Iran's nuclear program in the 1970s. Let's start with you, Dr. Etemad. Can the Iranians build 10 nuclear enrichment plants, uranium enrichment plants?
Well, it depends how much time you give them. And that's the problem.
Very, very long time.
They can do it in 5 years' time, 6 years' time, 7 years' time, but not in 6 months or 1 year.
Patrick Clausen.
It's a matter of time.
Mr. Clausen, do you share that assessment?
I would be very surprised if Iran were able to build those 10 sites that quickly, and they certainly couldn't provide centrifuges for those sites in any decade soon. It's going to take them at least 10 years just to make the centrifuges for Natanz.
In that case, we're talking about no objective change in the threat or the problem represented by Iran, but merely a question of presentation and an upping of the ante, as it were. Would you share that judgment, Dr. Etemad?
Somehow, yes, yes.
So what do you think is the Iranian game?
Well, the point is that, first of all, whatever they do, they are confronting a situation in which at the International Atomic Energy Agency or at the UN Security Council, anyhow, they are in a bad position. If they have to go through that, then they say, all right, we are going to build more enrichment plants. They don't lose anything. The problem is that the West is not dealing with the matter properly.
Okay, I'm going to come to that in a second, but in the meantime, we've got the problem of Israel, of course.
Yes.
Israel, which is nuclear armed and has clearly made noises that all options are on the table, and it may take some preemptive action to stop this development program, which everyone agrees is going to take a long time. So what should be done about that, Patrick Clausen?
Well, everyone would prefer that we have a diplomatic resolution, but it's so discouraging to see this bombast coming out of Iran. This is the last 2 days in which Mohammad al-Baradei is the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and he obviously wants to have a deal. He's very eager to work one out. And what Iran has done with this bombastic statement as he walks out the door is to kick him firmly and say, forget it, we're not interested in these kinds of negotiations. And that's very discouraging.
But as you've already conceded, there is no change in the objective circumstances, and yet we have the Israelis, who are a powerful nuclear force in the region, making threatening noises. Something has changed.
Yes, what's changed is the Iranians have proved that, once again, that they're not particularly good at calculating where their best interests lie, and that they're not interested in negotiations, and they're quite prepared to take very risky gambles. I don't know about you, but I don't feel more comfortable at the idea that someone who's a risky gambler, who's pretty ignorant about the outside world and full of bombast, might get his hands on nuclear weapons.
I'm not sure I'd feel particularly... Would you feel particularly comfortable if the Israelis decided to bomb these facilities?
Well, I think that that would be almost as bad a solution as letting Iran have those nuclear weapons.
All right, well,
After all, the last
then,
Israeli raid on Syria worked quite nicely, thank you.
Well, it worked anyway. Let's talk about...
Britain didn't complain. No country in Europe complained.
Let's talk about what the West then ought to do. Now, you were starting to raise this question a moment or two ago, Dr. Etemad.
Yes. Look, first of all, by attacking Iranian nuclear sites, they can achieve nothing at all. Okay. Because they have the technology in hand and they do it.
You're talking about Western powers. You say there's no military solution.
Yes, exactly, Western powers. There is no military solution.
Right, but they've had sanctions and clearly they're not working.
The sanctions, they would never work. Now,
well, what's your suggested alternative?
My suggestion is that they have to come to terms with Iran in a manner that it's not only nuclear. We have a lot of problems in the Middle East. We have the problem of security of Iran. United States Army is all around Iran from west, east, north, and south. Now, Afghanistan is a mess. Pakistan is in a mess. Iraq is in a mess. I don't talk about Lebanon, Syria, and so on. Now, and I leave aside the problem of Palestinians and Israel. Now, the whole region is in a mess. Now, Iran is the largest country, the most important country in the region, and we have our problem of security and national interests in the region. Then the West has to recognize that and to come to terms with Iran. Within that, they can solve the problem of nuclear.
Okay, Patrick Clausen, it's one hell of a shopping list, that, isn't it? I mean, that holistic solution. Is that a sensible way to go?
President Obama has been, for the last 10 months, eagerly trying to get engagement with the Iranian authorities, who for years insisted that if only the United States were interested in bilateral talks without preconditions, all these problems could be settled. Obama has been interested in this. He's written to Iran's leaders about it. He's spoken to the Iranian people about his interest in engaging with Iran. And yet we see no talks going on. None. This is very discouraging because one hoped that we would be able to have talks about all of those problems that were just cited. But we have not been able to do that. And that suggests that perhaps Iran really isn't interested in solving the problems here.
Okay, thank you both for now. Thank you both very much.